Hello and welcome back to 4FS Gaming. Today we are going to finish reviewing the rifles of Hunt Showdown by investigating the strengths and weaknesses of the Tier 3 rifles, unlocked from rank 67 upwards. These are the heavy hitting endgame rifles. They do cost a lot, but is their power up to that standard? If you would like to see the previous rifle review videos, I'll link them in the description below. This video will cover the Mosin Nagant M1891 and its 5 variants, the bayonet, the sniper, the Obrez mace, and the Aftermath. We will also look at the Nitro Express Rifle as the final Tier 3 weapon. So let's get started with the Mosin Nagant M1891. This is the final bolt action rifle you will unlock. It uses long ammo, is able to hold 5 rounds in the chamber with another 10 in reserve. This can be increased by using a long ammo sidearm like the uppercut. It is expensive, clocking in at $490. Let's look at its basic stats. It will deal 136 damage to the chest at 10 meters. Remember that hunters have 150 HP, so this will put a target in one-shot territory from just about any other damage source. The damage seems to hold pretty well, although it will start to diminish the further away you get, like all weapons. The weapon can kill with headshots out to 250 meters and possibly beyond, but such shots are extremely rare. The Mosin also has a muzzle velocity of 615 meters per second, making it one of the fastest projectiles in the game. It can fire off 34 rounds per minute if you discount reloads, meaning that you can fire shots in intervals of just under 2 seconds. The Mosin is a weapon that will lose a round if you reload while there are still bullets in the gun, unless you have the bullet grubber trait. It also uses a stripper clip if the magazine is completely empty, allowing you to load all 5 shots in 3 seconds, which is extremely fast. The weapon is known for its low sway values and clean iron sights. It has the standard rifle melee attack as well, with blunt damage able to kill a grunt with a heavy followed by a light hit to the head. So yeah, it's pretty good. The combination of high damage, high range, low sway, high projectile speed, and ability to reload rapidly make it both deadly as a long-range hunting rifle, as well as up close, and it does serious damage in one hit. The biggest concern you'll have with this weapon is its ammo management, as 15 shots can disappear very quickly, especially if you do not have bullet grubber. In that case, always expend the magazine before reloading, because it's worth it to conserve ammo. Taking an uppercut secondary is also a great idea, especially with fanning, because that will give you a solid close range option. Now there's no doubt that the Mosin Nagant reigns supreme over the Winfield and the Carabiner, and most people will accept it is more powerful than the Sparks and the Martini Henry as well, simply due to having more shots and higher projectile speed. But the big comparison we have to make when reviewing this weapon is with the Lebel 1886. The Mosin has a marginally higher damage than the Lebel, but this is almost negligible unless you are spamming body shots at 70 plus meters. The Lebel has a higher projectile speed, but not by much. They have different sights, but that's mainly a matter of personal preference, so the real difference between the two is how they manage their magazines and reloads. The Lebel does have 10 shots in the mag, but no speed loader, and only 5 in reserve. On balance, I think that the Mosin is much better with its setup, because if you don't have bullet grubber, then you can safely refill your gun without waste every 5 shots, and it only takes 3 seconds to do so, while with the Lebel, reloading all 10 rounds takes absolutely forever. Having a limited mag size just isn't much of a problem when you can pop 5 more rounds in 3 seconds. Both of these weapons are very similar, but I think the Mosin does come out on top, even if it doesn't quite justify that increased price tag over the Lebel rifle. So now let's talk about variants, because the Mosin certainly has a lot of these. The Mosin bayonet at $540 is extremely similar to the base Mosin, except that it has slightly more sway in exchange for a stabbing implement at the end of the barrel. This is only used during a heavy melee attack, and it is stamina intensive. It will deal 112 piercing damage to the chest. Now that's not enough to kill a hunter, but it's certainly enough if they have taken damage previously. It will of course one-shot to the head. Bayonets are great for taking out Hive and Armored quickly, as well as Hellhounds mid-lunge due to their range, but the high stamina cost makes them inefficient against grunts, and they are worse than normal rifles against immolators. Now this variant is good if you want to be able to melee in a fight without changing weapons, and it has saved me on more than a few occasions. However, depending on your playstyle, you may not want to pay the cost of increasing the weapon's sway, as the Mosin is, after all, best used from medium to long range. The next variant to cover is the Mosin Nagant Sniper, at a pricey $550. Now, unlike most sighted variants, this does more than just add an extremely high zoom sniper scope. It removes the ability to use the speed loader, which significantly increases the time to complete a full magazine reload. This variant is actively worse at close and medium range. Its zoom is so high that it can be hard to acquire targets, and you will reload much slower. However, at long and very long ranges, it allows you to take and land shots that are impossible with most other guns. Against a team with only iron sights on their weapons, you can have an immense advantage if positioned well. It is very situational, but the sniper variant does extremely well for a certain playstyle that is able to keep distance and avoid being surprised. Just remember that to get the most out of this weapon, it starts to become trait intensive, requiring bullet grubber, steady aim, and sniper scopesmith to reach its most powerful form, where you will experience low sway, the ability to top up ammo constantly, and stay scoped in between shots. Now, rather than adding things to the Mosin, some variants take something away. The Mosin Nagant Obrez at only $290 is a sawn-off variant. It is a medium slot weapon, so you can use it as a sidearm to a shotgun if you have quartermaster, or you're taking a hand cannon. Now, the stats on this weapon are deceptive. It appears to have the same damage as a base Mosin and also the same range, being capable of killing to the head at 250 meters. But the range drop off for body shots is actually much higher than the normal Mosin. That means that over 100 meters you can hit several body shots without landing a kill. This weapon really needs headshots, or it needs to be used up nice and close. It also has significantly increased sway, which can take some getting used to when hardscoping. The moral of the story is that you can't treat this thing like a full-length Mosin. Be aware of its limitations. The Obrez is a nice variant if you need to add some range to a loadout, but just don't try to melee with it. This gun has lower damage than even most other medium slot weapons, taking a minimum of 3 hits to kill even a grunt, and it's stamina intensive, and has a slow wind-up animation. In order to address this, we have a further variant, the Obrez Mace. This $310 weapon is largely identical to the Obrez, except it has even higher sway. In exchange, you get the ability to actually use the melee attack effectively, which is highly relevant in loadouts that use 2 medium slot weapons. The mace can kill grunts and hive in one headshot, and it even swings in a bit of an arc. The light attack is very fast and it does decent damage too, and a combination of these can take out immolators efficiently as well. So now we are down to the last 2 rifles in the game. These weapons have a bit of a reputation. They are expensive and they are feared. But how good are they really? Let's start by having a look at the infamous Aftermath. It costs $1,500 and it takes a lot of effort to unlock. It has 15 rounds in the magazine and none in reserve unless you take long ammo secondary weapons, which I would highly recommend. In fact, I would not take this in without either an Obrez or an uppercut in my other slot just for the ammo, and along with an ammo box as well. Now, this is an automatic weapon, so holding down the trigger will fire shots continuously, although tapping the trigger will fire them in 2-shot bursts. Now, I recommend that you only burst fire the Aftermath, otherwise you will be out of ammo far too quickly. Stat-wise, it is very similar to the base Mosin, but it behaves extremely differently. It deals the same 136 damage to the chest at 10 meters, meaning that up close, if you land a burst on someone, they will die with no need to follow up. It also has an effective range of 250 meters, so technically you can headshot someone very far away, although I don't recommend using the gun like this at all. It has the same 615 meters per second velocity, which is nice, and obviously a much higher fire rate of 400 rounds per minute, and a much lower handling, and greatly increased sway. Although it takes longer to reload than the base Mosin due to having 15 shots in the magazine, it does reload at the same pace due to the speed loader still working here. So why is the Aftermath so good? Well, simply put, if you miss, you can shoot again straight away. No need to pull back the bolt or anything, you just click again. This means you can get 3 or even 4 chances to hit in the time it takes for your opponent to fire back for a second time. It means that up close you can spray someone down, and it is highly likely that at least 2 shots will connect, which is all you need. If you are caught out in the mid-range without cover and someone is shooting this at you, you are almost certainly going to die. So yes, the Aftermath is very strong, but it does have 2 serious limitations, and they feed off each other. The first is range. Even though it can technically headshot to 250 meters, the Aftermath is no sniper. The range drop-off for body damage is much higher than the normal Mosin, similar to the Obrez, so tapping body shots past 100 meters is going to take a lot of shots to kill. Also, due to the tap fire mechanism and the high recoil, you will not be able to hit both shots in a single burst past about 50 meters, even closer if the enemy is only exposing their torso or head. This means that in order to take one shot, you are essentially expending double the ammo on each attempt. This feeds into the secondary weakness, ammo scarcity. 15 shots, no reserves, however most people will take an uppercut secondary to have half a reload. The amount you get from ammo crates is very low as well, and you can expend your ammo very quickly, after which you're in a bit of a pickle. So while strong, to be effective at using the aftermath, you do have to ensure that you only engage in the optimum range, which is essentially anything that you would use a Winfield for, and then be precise with your burst fire so as not to waste ammo. Now many people complain about the aftermath, or say it's too strong or that it doesn't have a place in the game. Now even though I don't use it a whole lot, I appreciate that the aftermath is there, and I think if you're having trouble, there are some tactics you can use to play around it. I've killed people holding this thing with a combat axe, so like all things in Hunt, the tools and the gear will only get you so far. Surprise them, play outside their range, draw out their ammo. There are lots of ways that you can exploit the weaknesses of this gun. Speaking of powerful rifles with an array of significant drawbacks, let's talk about our final weapon. The Nitro Express Rifle costs $1,015. It is a side-by-side rifle, so it has 2 barrels with 1 shot loaded in each. You only get 4 shots in reserve, it uses special ammo so no normal pickups either, and it has an aperture sight designed to actively make the gun worse. It blurs everything outside of the sight, it's clunky, it gives you terrible tunnel vision, and despite the fact that you can fire the second shot almost immediately, the recoil is so high that after shooting once, you will have to completely reacquire your target. It also has an extremely low range for an endgame rifle, only killing with headshots up to 95 meters. It also has high sway and a very poor hipfire spread. So this weapon has a lot of things holding it back. Many of these have been introduced over time as the devs have placed more and more limitations on the Nitro, but why? Let's take a look.
I was actually really annoyed because I was just about to shoot it. Oh, someone's peeking me.
Really? Whoa.
And guess what gun he is? On my ass.
You're outside, aren't you?
Yeah, that's all.
Just here.
This house, right there.
Yeah.
I was looking.
Yeah, that one on the platform. Just to the south. I think he's moved a bit closer. Oh, I saw him. He was just below that thing. Moved to the right as well. Oh no, that thing's right. Hit him. I hit him once.
These guys have fucking eyeballs, man.
Yep.
The Nitro deals 364 damage to the chest at 10 meters. This drops off rapidly, but it still means that arm shots will kill up to around 20 meters, and chest shots will drop a full health target even at 40 meters. The Nitro is the only weapon to penetrate clean through targets, so yes, it is possible to wipe a team with a single shot. So despite all of its drawbacks and the variety of things that make the Nitro hard to use, it is still extremely potent, but it requires practice. You have to get a feel for those sights, for when to fire and for when not to. I'd take an ammo box, I'd take a decent and versatile secondary weapon, and I'd only shoot at enemies with about 40 meters range on them unless they are injured. Now it's hard to say the Nitro is better than a Lebel or a Mosin or a Sparks, but it's certainly different and stronger in terms of raw killing power. It also completely melts bosses in a number of hits. I find it terribly satisfying to use, but many people can't go past those horrendous sights. There is also nothing more disheartening than hitting a non-lethal leg shot with this weapon. So there we have all of the tier 3 rifles in Hunt Showdown. I hope you found this guide useful, and hopefully it encourages you to pick up some of Hunt's more expensive and esoteric weapons. Please consider subscribing if you like this video, let us know your favourite rifle in the comments below, and check out our Discord and Patreon linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching. This is Ascendance from 4FS Gaming.